Hello and welcome, everyone. We are very excited to talk to you today about the AXYS Registry and let you know how you can participate in whatever way you would like to get involved. So to get started, I am Dr. Shanlee Davis. I am a pediatric endocrinologist and researcher at the Extraordinary Kids Clinic in Aurora, Colorado. And I also have with me today Alexa Carl, who is the project manager for the AXYS study. And today we will be presenting more information about what is research and why it's important, what is a research registry in particular, and then how can AXYS benefit the X and Y community, and how can you get involved and participate? So to start off with a little bit about what is research and why it's important. So research is a scientific investigation that's really essential for improving the quality of human lives. Research can look like a lot of different things, but the goal is to give us knowledge about health and disease. And this is can give us information about the causes of disease, for example, or the natural history of progression, understanding who is at risk, as well as what is biologically plausible. Research also allows us to develop and test different treatments or interventions or approaches to ask the questions of what works, what makes those outcomes better, what doesn't work, and also understand the risks and the benefits of a particular intervention. And then finally, the ultimate goal is to improve the health and well-being of people. So again, either preventing or curing disease or improving that outcome that we want, that's important to the people that we're helping to treat conditions and ultimately improve quality of life. So now Alexa is going to shift gears and talk more about what is a research registry in particular.
Awesome. So a research registry is a specific type of research study like those that Dr. Davis just reviewed. And in a registry, we collect uniform information about individuals with a specific condition. So in this case, we're talking about X and Y variations, as well as any other diagnoses that may be common. And typically, we're looking at longitudinal data, which just means it's ongoing. People sign up one time, then we continue to collect information over a number of years. Registries can also be single or multi-site, and they can be powered by either a researcher or patient group, or in the case of AXYS, both. And they also often connect patients and researchers to focus on research and outcomes that are important to the patient community. And then additionally, sometimes registries can collect and store tissue samples, which is what's called a biobank. And research registries focus on the power in numbers. So registries typically have a large number of participants included, which means we can make really solid conclusions about the outcomes that we're studying. And going into a little bit more about why these studies are really important. So registries can help us increase what we know about a specific condition, and then help healthcare professionals improve treatment for that condition, and also allow researchers to design better studies on a particular condition, including development and testing of new treatments. So that's what's called clinical trial readiness. So these registries kind of give us a lot of data and foundation to set us up for those clinical trials moving forward.
So there are a lot of actually examples of registries out there for different conditions. I'm going to share one in particular that really has a long history and a lot of success. So cystic fibrosis is a rare genetic disorder, and it historically has had really poor outcomes for individuals that have cystic fibrosis. Most of them died by the time they were young adults. In 1986, the Cystic Fibrosis Patient Registry was founded to really understand how do we know how to help those individuals that some are actually living a lot longer. How do we know what is making them have those better outcomes, and how can we get this more uniform across everyone? And so it was both to standardize care and have this transparent understanding of what is happening across the country, but then also it had a lot of other outcomes outcomes as well. It was able to allow them to identify that one of the factors that really predicted survival was lung function, and one of the predictors of lung function was actually BMI, so how much an individual weighed. And so although this was primarily a lung disease, and they weren't focused that much on nutrition, it really shifted the focus of those clinics around the country to really focus on nutrition. And in doing so, they were able to really improve survival rates over time. And that you can see on this bottom graph here that you can track outcomes over time, which is a really important factor in a longitudinal registry. The other picture is demonstrating that you can see a picture across the lifespan. So this is ages essentially 0 to age 70. And this is giving an idea of the background population and then those that are eligible for one of the newest treatments, which is a CF modulator. And this, in addition to the improving nutrition, has really improved lifespan. And now individuals are really living for a long time. And now they have different priorities, including quality of life and other comorbidities that they're looking at. And so this registry has really completely changed the face of what cystic fibrosis looks like and how we are able to treat patients in clinic and the life that they can live. So although kids with X and Y variations are not, we're not tracking survival as our outcome, because thankfully that's not the big outcome that we care about. We want to be able to both track outcomes that we do care about over time, as well as understand what the picture looks like at any given time.
Awesome. So with that kind of background, we want to focus on how Galaxy can benefit the X and Y community, because that's really the ultimate goal of this project. So what exactly is Galaxy? It's a multi-center clinical data registry and biorepository, which just means we're storing both data and specimens for individuals with X and Y variations. And we have kind of 3 baseline goals, which is to quantify baseline clinical outcomes, determine best clinical practices, and support future research and quality improvement efforts in the X and Y variation community. And we're hoping that through these 3 goals, we will ultimately improve outcomes for individuals with X and Y variations.
All right, so this is a busy slide, but this is the diagram of what Galaxy is all about. So starting at the top in the purple box here is the steering committee, and this is one of the most important and unique things about the Galaxy registry. Although I'm the principal investigator and kind of the lead researcher in this study, it is definitely not just my project. There are a lot of people involved in the steering committee that their job is really to represent the stakeholders, including patients and families that are living with X and Y variations, the clinicians that are seeing patients that for X and Y conditions, and obviously the research as well. And so the steering committee is meeting every month at this point to really be able to establish the priorities of what Galaxy is and what Galaxy is not, to oversee all of the research that we're doing at the Data Coordinating Center, which is here at the University of Colorado, and also then to approve all of the policies and kind of the background things of what the research project should be doing. Again, both the family and the community, as well as the clinicians, are seated on the steering committee as part of this collaboration. Going to clockwise over to the green, we then have the clinic sites. At this point, we are the only clinic site at the Extraordinary Kids Clinic at Children's Hospital Colorado. However, we are working with the ACRC clinics to establish clinic sites at other locations across the country as well. And the job of the clinic sites is to tell patients about the Galaxy project, to enroll patients into the study, enter clinical data, and then also they always have access to their own data as well in case they want to do quality improvement or understand their metrics over time as well. And then down at the bottom, our role at the University of Colorado is really all of the regulatory and administrative type things. And so actually building the registry that's collecting the data and where the data is housed. We do all of the quality control and make sure everything stays secure, and do all the regulatory aspects and the legal aspects so that we are making sure that the data is treated in the appropriate way. And then also we provide summary data, ideally where we're giving this information back to the public, so back to the people that are participating in the registry and the clinics that are participating in the registry. We also can work with researchers who are interested in using the data, again, after it's approved by the steering committee, to be able to then ideally get this information out into the scientific community as well. And then finally, the most important part of the registry is the individuals that are participating and agreeing to allow us to use your clinical data for research purposes. There are a couple of other optional things that you can also choose as part of the registry if you want to get more involved or have the option to get more involved in the future. And we'll go over some of those as well. And so this is the schematic of the entire Galaxy registry idea. We don't have to go over all of the names here, but these are available online if you want to see who is currently serving on the steering committee. This is a completely volunteer position. And again, we're meeting monthly, and there's some, things to review in between then as well. So the important thing is to understand that we have individuals representing the clinic side of things, the research side of things from all different specialties and backgrounds, and then as well as the patient and family perspective as well.
Awesome. So what have we done so far? So about a year ago now, April 28th of 2022, we got regulatory approval to start working on this project. And then in June of that year, we enrolled our first participant here at Children's Colorado, which was obviously very exciting. And then in August, we were able to enroll our first participant outside of Children's Colorado. So enrolled online, which was great that we could enroll folks not just being seen here at our clinic. Then in October, we had our first steering committee meeting, which, as Dr. Davis just mentioned, is a critical part of this project. And then as of the day that we are recording this, we have had 212 people who have consented into the Galaxy registry. So we're already looking at that power in numbers, which is pretty exciting. Looking more specifically at who those 212 individuals are, we can see it's mostly individuals with Klinefelter syndrome. However, we do have a number of folks with other X and Y variations as well. So on the right, you can kind of see the total number that we have verified eligibility for, which just means we have been able to review the genetic test and confirm their diagnosis. So we have 105 with the XXY or Klinefelter, 5 with XYY, 12 with trisomy X, 18 with XXYY, and then 10 with other X and Y variations, which include things like XXXY as well as 45X. We also have additional data available that you can see at any time on our public-facing dashboard. Looking at demographics, diagnoses, and other kind of basic overview data on who the individuals are that are in our project. So you can see in terms of sex and gender, we're looking at mostly males, which makes sense since XXY is our highest diagnoses at this point. We also have race and ethnicity data. We're looking at mostly white, non-Hispanic at this point. However, it is a goal of ours to increase the racial and ethnic diversity of our sample to make sure that we are able to represent all people who have X and Y variations. This is a QR code. I'll leave it up on the screen for just a second here if folks want to scan it. But it will bring you to that public dashboard so you can see a little bit more about what the individuals in our study are looking like.
All right. Although we have not yet started to look at some of the data within the Galaxy registry because we are just a year in and we're just now reaching the point where we can really start to have that power in numbers, as Alexa was talking about. I wanted to just give you one example of how research, particularly research with a lot of numbers and a lot of experience, can make a true difference in the clinic and in the community. So as you likely know, in the Extraordinary Kids Clinic, we see hundreds of individuals, kids with X and Y variations. And we were noticing that several of these clinic patients were being diagnosed with this uncommon condition called eosinophilic esophagitis, which is an inflammation of the esophagus or the food pipe. And this has not previously been associated with X and Y variations, but we were like, man, this is happening more frequently than what we would expect, especially since it's so rare of a condition to have. So we started actually collecting the data on individuals with this EOE diagnosis and started actually asking families if they, have this condition. And once we were able to put all this data together, we found that the risk of EOE was actually 30 times higher in X and Y variations compared to what we would expect in the general population. And we now know, based on that research, that we actually have to ask the questions about the symptoms of EOE. And we have had so many more patients now after we started asking those symptoms or asking those questions and recommending seeing a gastroenterologist if they did have those symptoms. They've been diagnosed and have able to get treatment for something that they had just been living with those symptoms without knowing that it was potentially problematic. And so this is just one example how those observation from a clinical observation to then actual systematic research came all the way back to the clinic and is really making a difference for our patients, both in our clinic and then since we've published this information and gotten it out to the community, hopefully patients that we'll never see in our clinic, but are in other places across the country or even across the world.
All right. So after Dr. Davis and I have talked a bunch about what the Galaxy Registry is, you might be interested in participating or curious what that looks like. So I'm going to go into that. So in terms of what is being asked of you, if you were to enroll in the Galaxy Registry, there's just kind of the basic enrollment first off, which is giving permission for us to use your clinical information, which would be your medical records or kind of the answers to the questions that your doctors ask you when you go in for clinical visits, and use that for research purposes. So there's really nothing extra for you to do other than sign that you are okay with that. And then we would take data like diagnoses, medications, test results, etc., and enter that into a database called REDCap, which is a HIPAA compliant and password protected database designed for research to keep that data secure. And we would update that data about yearly. And then the identified data from that database would then be used by researchers approved by the steering committee to answer specific questions about X and Y variations. As Dr. Davis alluded to earlier, there are some optional things you can do as well. You can do all of these or none of these and still be in the registry. So the first is agreeing to be contacted for future studies. It's not agreeing to participate in any additional research. You're just agreeing that if there is a study that you or your child, if you're a parent, are eligible for, we could contact you and let you know about it. And then you could decide at that point if you wanted to participate or not. The second option is participating in a few surveys that come out to your email. There's some things that are hard to get directly from the medical records, like demographics, access to care, or what your research priorities are that we really want to know about for at least some of our participants. So that's the second option. And then the third option is providing a blood sample for a biobank. Currently, this is just happening if you're seen at Children's Colorado. However, we are actively working with some of those other clinics and hopefully we'll be able to have that up and running at other places soon as well. So if you want to sign up, QR code is here. You can scan it or you can type this shortened link into your browser, and it will bring you to the online form to sign up for Galaxy. I'm going to go over kind of what that website looks like here in a second, but I also wanted to point out that throughout the conference, myself and another one of our research coordinators will be holding some office hours. If you have any questions or issues with the online form, please pop in, or else please contact us after, and we're happy to set up a time to talk more about what that enrollment looks like. So let me switch over here. So this is what will show up when you go to that public link. And the first thing it's going to ask you about is your eligibility for being in the study. If you're a parent of a child with an X and Y variation, when you're filling these out, think about your child, not about yourself. So you can pick what language you want to answer it in, confirm that you or your child has a diagnosis of an X and Y variation. There's a list of countries here that currently we're not approved to enroll in, although we are actively working on the last few steps of getting this approved. So hopefully, maybe even by the time you're watching this, this question won't be there. But for now, you would want to hit no, and then talk about where you heard about this. So if you heard about it at the conference, you can put access, and then submit. And those would bring you then to the actual consent form, which I obviously encourage you to read the entire thing and fully understand what you're agreeing to before you sign. I'm just going to scroll through and show you kind of the points at which you actually have to click something. So there's some parts here about being placed on a recruitment list for future studies, as well as completing some surveys. So you want to make sure you hit yes or no, and then also add your initials for both, whether you say yes or no. And I'm going to go through some of the risks and benefits, as well as other details about the study and your rights. And then if you did sign up for those optional procedures, there is a HIPAA authorization as well, which many of you are probably familiar with. You want to hit yes or no, and then do a initial there as well. And then if you are ready to consent, you can hit yes. If you're still unsure and want to chat with us a little bit more, this will give you our email that you can contact us at, or if you put your email, I will reach out to you. But if you are interested, it will ask you a few questions just to make sure that you fully understand what you are agreeing to. So I'm not going to let you cheat. Answer those questions, and this part will come up next. So you would want to put in your first name, your last name, and your date of birth. That is not my real date of birth. If the age is over 18, one thing to note is that if you're a parent who's a legal guardian of someone over 18, you want to make sure to check this box so that you can sign the parent section here. Otherwise, only the participant signature will pop up for you. And then it will still give you the option to put in your email for those optional procedures. And when you hit next page, it will load up, maybe, a place for you to download that form so you can actually see and keep a copy for yourself of what you signed and agreed to, and then also scroll through and make sure that everything that you said was correct. You'll have to certify and then submit. I know there's a lot of little steps in here, so bear with me. Once you do that, it will bring you to this basic information form. This helps us ensure your eligibility for the study. Looking here, we want birth certificate information. So I go by Alexa, but that's not my full name. You want to add that there. The place that you were born, Madison, Wisconsin, go Badgers. And then some more information about kind of demographics as well. Like I talked about, we do want to review that genetic test confirming your or your child's diagnosis. And so if you have a copy of that and upload it here, that really helps us expedite the process, but it's not required. So you want to fill all of that out. Tell us if you've been participated in any other research that we've done, and then go ahead and submit. And then it will bring you to the very last form. So this is what's called a release of records, which will help us actually get access to that clinical information that we talked about earlier in the presentation. So if you've been seen here at Children's Colorado, you don't have to fill this out, but if you've not been seen by us, this is something you're going to want to complete. And it will allow us to reach out to both the place where you were originally diagnosed, as well as other providers that you've been seen by as we increase the data that's in the registry. So you want to fill out all of your information here. If you're a parent, make sure you put in your information as well. And then put in the number of facilities you wish to include. Facilities is a really broad term that means any doctor's office, hospital, labs, clinics, or anywhere else that you have been seen for medical care. So don't get too hung up on the term facility. And however many you put in, it will pop up that many places for you to enter their information. You'll want to put in the name of the clinic or the doctor, as well as the phone and fax if you have it. If you don't, you can leave that blank and we can find it on our end. Make sure you read through everything that you are agreeing to yet again, and then add your initials specifically for genetic testing, mental health, and psychotherapy notes, if those are things that you want to make sure we can include when we are getting records from those sites. Especially the genetic testing that is going to be required for the study. So make sure you do that. And then go ahead and sign, put who you are, and then put a date. And then after you've done that, you've kind of completed your enrollment in the registry. A member of our team may reach out to you if there's any additional questions, or if there's a spot that you maybe missed. I know there's a lot of initials in there. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start reaching out to those clinics and getting confirmation of your diagnosis. So again, please come to those office hours if you have any questions about that. I'm happy to talk more about exactly what it looks like or help you with any technical problems you might have when going through that consent.
Couple of important things with that as well. Even if you have not, even if you're not consenting to the optional things, it's still really helpful to include your email address so that we can contact you if there are any, like Alexa mentioned, any problems that we need to address from the consent form or from contacting the other clinics that you've been at. All right. And with that, we are happy to take questions here now. I want to just acknowledge that there are a lot of people that have already signed up for the registry. And so we want to thank you for your participation and thank those of you that are interested in participating in the future. Our goal is really, again, to work with you and work with the community and really make this a resource for the community so that we can all learn together and ultimately improve the lives of individuals living with X and Y variations. We also want to thank all of our team members, but in particular, Dr. Tartaglia and Susan Howell for the research support and their involvement in the Galaxy registry as well. And then Mariah Brown and Natalia Claymont for recruiting in clinic for us and helping with some of the other logistics for the registry as well. And then finally, thank you so much to our partners, AXYS, the XXYY project, and Living with XXY for funding support, for being on the steering committee, and for really supporting the registry and working in partnership together. Thanks, everyone.